In the words of American Idol winner Fantasia Barrino, sometimes you gotta lose to win again. This is true in almost every facet of life. However, it's exceptionally true when it comes to the art of negotiation. I can remember negotiating with my mom as a little girl about eating foods I did not like. Let's be clear, I rarely won a negotiation. In fact, I was probably batting zero my entire childhood. But I unknowingly employed the appropriate skills of negotiation. I tried to compromise so we both got something we wanted. I would suggest eating some but not all of my vegetables. I leveraged value creation. I made sure she understood there would be value in my partaking in a little bit of the vegetables, as I could still grow up to be a very healthy girl. These are the skills that I mastered as a child that would help me to become a state of Texas master teacher, because we all know there's a lot of negotiation that unfolds in America's classrooms. As a teacher, I had to negotiate with children daily. I would have to check myself often to ensure I left my emotions out of negotiations with my students. I never wanted to allow my dislike of something they did overshadow the love I really had for them. There were a few times throughout my career I allowed my emotions to consume me and I lost the battle. I was trying to compromise with my student Timothy, who was overaged. He was 16 in 7th grade. I wanted him to attend school more because he was severely chronically absent. We talked in the hallway one day and he told me that he had a baby on the way and needed to hustle to prepare for the arrival of his child. I shared with him the way he wanted to earn money was going to take him away from his child, and finishing school was a better option. He said, "No disrespect, Miss Mason, but you drive a 1995 Maxima and I drive a 2006 Escalade. I don't think finishing school will get me where I want to be." I took it as disrespect and emphatically stated, "You are worried about the car I drive, but I own a home and you don't." At that moment, I lost my value creation. He didn't want to listen to anything I had to say because I had not contained my emotions and made his situation about me. It was one of the most memorable negotiations in which I had been involved, and I had failed miserably. When I became an instructional coach, unbeknownst to me, I would have to lean on negotiations more than I did with my students. During this phase of my career, I had to develop firm negotiation skills. I could not be afraid of conflict. There were teachers who were not up to par and dared anyone to attempt to correct them. I valued my title as educator and was purposed to cultivate anyone I led so they would be the best educators they could. One teacher on my team rejected everything I would tell her. This would not have been an issue if she had data to support her efforts were working. One day I had a meeting with her trying to develop a positive relationship, and she was obviously uninterested. I gave her a written warning to sign, and she was taken aback. I explained that she could either engage appropriately during our coaching sessions, or I would begin documenting and requesting her transfer to another campus. She was infuriated. I shared with her that I did not want to write her up. However, it was unfair that everyone else on the team was in alignment and she was blatantly disconnected. After she calmed down, she agreed to begin partnering with me to complete her assigned tasks. When I allowed myself to be comfortable with conflict, I was able to enhance the teaching skills of more teachers. They knew I would not lower expectations, and those who refused to participate meaningfully would receive professional consequences. As a presidential leadership scholar, I've had the esteemed privilege of learning the art of negotiation from two considerably savvy leaders, Presidents George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. President Bush usually entered negotiations with a firm stance. Either you are with us or you are against us. He was a risk taker who took seemingly dangerous chances because he unequivocally believed in America's perspective. President Clinton's approach was much different. He employed the techniques of saving face. His goal was to consider the needs of all involved in a concerted effort to reach a compromise. I can remember the most horrific time in my life when I had to use my negotiation skills to ensure my family was safe. After departing New Orleans days before the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, my family ended up in Houston, Texas. There were 13 of us traveling together. We had a few elderly and disabled family members, as our trek was much more challenging than most. It was day 3 of our journey and we needed somewhere to stay. Unfortunately, my entire family worked for my parents who owned 2 daycares. The state offices were completely shut down, so we were very low on money. But we needed somewhere to sleep. We pulled up to an apartment complex. I went in and asked if they had an empty unit in which we could stay. We needed to stretch, rest, and most importantly, bathe. The manager said they had a 1-bedroom apartment, but we had too many people to stay in it. I explained our obviously dire situation to the manager. I shared that we had been traveling for days with little money and we needed to get out the van at least for a night. I didn't know it then, but I was engaging in strategy. I told the manager that we would only use the apartment for 1 night and we would leave early in the morning. My goal was to build rapport and trust. I wanted the manager to believe my word was bond, especially if we gained access to money and needed to come back to rent a few units. The manager was very obliging and allowed us to stay. That night, my brother-in-law called and informed us that my sister's house did not have much damage and we could come back to stay there as long as we needed. My ability to effectively negotiate gave us the opportunity to rest and regroup for the long road ahead. As I think about perfecting my negotiation skills, I have to fall back on my teaching practices. And as we all know, great teachers always have great acronyms. So I created CAN to help executive leaders feel confident in the negotiations in which they participate. C, compromise. Be open to seeing the vantage point of your opponents in case there is a middle ground that can be reached. A, assert. Firmly state your position and use data to substantiate your requests. N, neutralize. Counterbalance your opponent by remaining free of emotion during the process so you don't become overly stimulated and derailed from your overarching goal in the negotiation. Everyone has the ability to negotiate. It is how we approach the idea that increases or decreases our chances at success. It is important to understand our BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Doing so ensures we don't end a negotiation too early or deprive ourselves of the opportunity to compromise or win a negotiation. When you have truly mastered negotiation, the guiding words of the late great singer Kenny Rogers will echo in your head. You gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And that, my friends, is negotiation 101.